code item of the week is don't overpromise or underdeliver. I know this is one that I'm constantly working on to make sure I don't overpromise on things and set realistic expectations. Ben Dow, do you have anything to add?
Well, just think it out before you commit and be honest and realistic with what your commitments are. Usually if you think about it for a few minutes, you might adjust your answer before you commit, right?
Leave contingency.
Yeah.
All right, the clock reset this week on recordables and first aid injuries. Just make sure that if you have a way to do something safely, that you're using that. Our safety shout out of the week is everybody because we beat the heat. This week we're talking about Silica Awareness. My apologies. And just actually, before we get into that, a reminder, please reach out to me if you're interested in playing in the ECI golf tournament. So most common. What's that?
Which tournament?
The ECI Railroad Tournament.
The Railroad Tournament, right? And
yep, that's scheduled for September 28th.
Yep.
Might have to wiggle a day or two, but so most common ways that we're exposed to silica dust is demolition, chipping, hammering, cutting, drilling, and grinding concrete. So silica is a substance that's found in pretty much everything that we deal with. So whether it's rock, concrete, whatever it might be, it gets into your lungs and it's very damaging. So your health effects, you can see some lungs with silicosis up there on the top. You can get lung cancer, COPD, or kidney disease. Obviously, a lot of these fall in the same categories of what you might get from smoking. So if you smoke and you're exposed to silica dust, it's going to make it a lot worse for you. And you can see down at the bottom, you can see those spots that are on the lungs. Those are irreversible. Those will never get better. So the permissible exposure limit for OSHA is 50 micrograms per cubic meter of air. And that's averaged over an 8-hour workday. So that's the permissible limit. If you're going to be working with it day in, day out, maybe we want to keep it under the 50 micrograms per cubic meter of air. So just for reference, in a small room, the amount of silica that you see on the left side there, that's 1,000 micrograms of silica. If that's in a small room, that's going to bring you to your permissible exposure limit. So you can see how small that permissible exposure limit is, and that's in place to keep us healthy and breathing well. So whenever it comes to an OSHA job, the easiest way to figure out whether or not you need to wear respiratory protection is a table called Table 1, which is easy enough to remember. If you ever forget what it is, just reach out to Matt or myself or anybody, and we can get it over to you. So basically what it is it tells you, okay, this is the task I'm doing. So I'm using a chipping hammer. I think that says, for some reason, my screen got really small here, but a chipping hammer, and whether you're doing it wet or with a vacuum system or what you might have, for how long you're doing it, whether it's less than 4 hours or more than 4 hours, it'll tell you what you need for a respiratory protection. So you see that if you're wet, jackhammering wet for less than 4 hours, you need to wear, or you don't need to wear anything. But if you're doing it for more than 4 hours or you're doing it inside, then you need to do an APF 10 mask or better.
And that's just a dust mask.
Yep. So here we have cutting, same thing when you use it outdoors. If you do it wet, I believe that says if you're doing it wet, either way, it would be none. But then if you're doing it inside, then you would need to wear APF 10. And then you have some commercial devices and stuff down below there. So the assigned protection factor, which is the APF, which I just referenced, that's put in this table here. So your APF 10 is what you were most commonly going to see and what we're most commonly going to use. So that's your dust masks, things like that. Once we bump up to APF 25, which is needed in some instances, then we're getting into the PAPR zone and stuff like that. So we have those. If you need to use them, let us know. And then anything above that is getting into more specialized stuff that we'll have to set up in advance. So just keep that in mind. And if you're in doubt about something for a job, make sure you reach out sooner than later. We can reference the chart and figure out what you need to do.
Probably if we're at that far end of the chart, we're gonna look for other options anyway, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if we can engineer it out rather than wearing respiratory protection, that's preferred. And if it's situation not covered, we have the ability to test the atmosphere. So just give us a call. We can see how much silica is in the air and send it off to the lab and get it all figured out and come up with our own chart for how long we can do stuff for with or without respiratory protection. So that sums it up for silica dust. The big thing is just think it out beforehand, have the right protections in place, the right engineering controls, the right PPE if you have to. And if you have to use two things in combination, that's probably even better. So I'll stop sharing here.
And I think that this is one very visible activity for our workers outside, in a public area where OSHA or anybody drives by would see something. And we see our competitors out there often with a whole mass of dust around them. But also, I think of protecting the public too. If we're out there in the public and we don't really want to be blowing silica dust over somebody's area, their own personal space.
Yeah, and if you're cutting concrete, let's say, and you're chipping concrete and you're using water, and according to the chart, you're good to go, but you're still creating a bunch of dust, then either you need to use more water or you need to add a mask or a combination thereof. So
Right. Yeah. Okay, I'll take over the screen. I think this is the right one. Okay, silica dust. Do you see my screen?
We got it, Ken.
you do.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Oh, my announcements. One didn't pop up. I had one, and we can announce it next week, but we'll do it this week too. And that was Dave Forcier has been promoted to field supervisor, right? Ben, maybe you can give us a quick.
He's been
rundown.
promoted to a field supervisor position,
Yep.
which
Okay.
is pretty cool.
Congratulations to Dave. Unfortunately, I made the change on here and it didn't save properly. For other announcements, this is an ongoing announcement from last week. We have an upcoming Independence Day holiday, and that is in a week and a half here. So that would be obviously Independence Day is the 4th, where we are closed. And because that's a Thursday, we decided, hey, let's just close on Friday because it would be a really goofed up week. A lot of people would be on vacation anyway. So besides being closed, and that may have exceptions if there's a project that really needs some sort of activities on that day, but most won't, I assume. But in in the spirit of the summer here, we decided as a company to give all full-time active employees 8 hours of ATO for that day, for Friday. So just since we're closed, you'll still have pay for that day. And even if you work, you'll be able to bank it in some way. We'll describe how to do that, how to account for that, and how to charge for it that week or the week after when we do the timesheets. And let's see, a couple older announcements here. I'm going to take this off for next week, but there was a Vermont Healthcare Declaration form sent out a while ago. I'm sure that if you haven't sent it in since we passed the date, that you'll be hearing from the accounting department. So if you want to get ahead of them, just stop by. I still don't have a link here to the form. EEO training, I'll probably take this one off too. We had that a few weeks ago, and we have a video. So if you did not attend or listen to that meeting, you can still do it on the YouTube. So just click that connection, that link. And also we have I'm keeping on here, the Facebook and Instagram links for ECI's accounts to keep in touch at a different level than our website. And the healthcare premium holiday continues, so I'd better check on this because we might be getting close. For new employees this week, or really Mike Boss came last week at the tail end of last week, so we didn't get him on the list, but he is with this heavy civil group. This week we have Parker Leonard from the heavy civil group again. Hunter Bernier, civil group. And Zachary Favreau. Oh, it should say civil group, I believe. So welcome everybody. And I continued with this other announcement, the 401k Ready Save mobile app, where you can check your 401k on your phone. So if you don't have that, it's a great way to kind of keep track of things and be able to connect. It's interesting when we have our meetings as trustees on the account, they give us kind of an idea how many people are participating in these kind of interactions. So it's an important thing. It's a good thing to keep track of your investments. It's also nice to just put it on a kind of a good program so that it's in cruise control and you only check it occasionally too. Like they have what is it, Ben? They call them the retirement plans there on the account names. What's those account names?
Target date funds.
Yeah. The
Target date
funds.
fund. Yeah. You guys checked yours recently, so you can kind of feel good and without checking it every day, but definitely check it once in a while. So this week we're talking about the Swampscott River siphon upgrade projects, and this is the second and final siphon to be installed in Exeter. And Tom, you're on the line. Did you want to read through the narrative?
Yep, I'll read through, Ken, if you want to just kind of drive the ship, that'd be good. So, sure. Most everyone in the company's heard of this project at one point or another, but ECI was subcontracted with Engren East and Sons. They are a Massachusetts general contractor, very similar to ECI in the way that they do business, highly organized, highly qualified, and high level of integrity for sure. So they were a pleasure to work with on a very difficult project. So the work was necessary to replace an existing siphon system that was failing and under capacity. Prior to going to drilling, they looked at every alternative, bursting, lining, and really drilling was the only option they had here. So we proceeded down that road. Our original scope of work included 3 siphon pipes, 2 were 12-inch and 1 was 10-inch each. Pipe about 900 feet in length across the Squamscott River by horizontal directional drilling in soft clay is what we anticipated, and that's what the bid document showed. Immediately, day one after we began drilling, we encountered bedrock on the Swayze side, which is the west side of the project. We then went to the east side of the mill side and encountered bedrock there, and ultimately had to go down that road. So we encountered bedrock within the profile, continuing on with Ken's work here, that couldn't be avoided even with profile and alignment changes, and we tried a number of those. The subsurface conditions required significant change of our scope and schedule, and final quantity of pipes for budget constraints that ultimately the town chose to install two pipes only instead of the original 3 that were planned. The conditions, the extra complexity of drilling through the soft clay with rock tooling to reach the bedrock certainly proved challenging. And in addition to the rock and the soft clay, we also had some unstable rock conditions that we had to get out of back into soft clay. So it was, it's probably was the most challenging bore that ECI's ever done. I think certainly since I've been here for sure. Another significant challenge for the project was protecting the river. There was a lot of emphasis on that, maintaining good public access to the Riverside Park and impact to the recreational users of the river and of the park. It was a big walkway, so it was a high traffic, high pedestrian area as well. We ended up using a mud motor for drilling through the rock and clay with a carbide tricone roller bit, and we've got some great pictures here. We'll get into more detail with all of this. We after our pilot, we reamed with 12 and 18-inch rock hole openers with the carbide cones. We used a gyroscope guidance for steering. That was provided to us by Mike and Jeff Owens. They're a subcontractor to us called North American Wireline out of Florida. And then we had a full-time mud technician that was required by the town, really due to the environmental concerns over fluid release in the Squamscott River. Want to scroll down a little, Ken? So,
Oh, sure.
yep. Okay, we completed the first pipe in August of 2023 and remobilized for the second pipe in January of this year. Shortly after mobilization, our site was underwater. They had heavy rains. This took place a few weeks back, or maybe a month back. We reported on the projects we did in Leominster and Lowell, Massachusetts, and both of those projects, specifically the Lowell, Mass project, had heavy rains, and this was the same weather pattern that we experienced here. So in early spring, a tooling failure required us to abandon the nearly completed second bore, and we were very close on that one until we had the tooling failure. We attempted to recover that, and there's some good pictures. We can get into detail on that when we get to the photo sections from the mill side of the project, which ultimately was not successful. The soils grabbed us and bound things up, so we weren't able to retrieve. The knowledge we gained from the drilling attempts throughout the project allowed us to drill the second pipe on a new profile and alignment with significant reduction in rock, both in quantity and in drilling difficulty. And when we finally found the best path, it literally took us about 2 weeks to get through. And just a quick narrative on that. The 2 weeks prior to these final 2 weeks, we worked from the west side of the project, the Swayze side, and found a profile kept above the rock profile, but below the required elevation by the Army Corps of Engineers, which was strictly in the permit. So we knew we had quite a bit of decent conditions from that side. We located to the other side and then drilled to the rock. So all the knowledge we'd gained throughout this allowed us to get to that point, and we were happy to get it done for sure. Okay. Scroll on down, Ken.
Okay. Get a sense of where the project is.
Yep. Not far from the Portsmouth area. I think, Tommy, you live, what, half a mile from here?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
Close to there. So
yeah.
So it was good to have you on site for sure.
This drains to the Great Bay, right? So that's the big estuary between like Durham, New Hampshire, and Exeter and Portsmouth, kind of this big bay that everything discharges to.
Yep.
And Newmarket. Don't forget Newmarket.
Exactly. So here's the final profile as built of the project. This little marking right here where you can see the elevation, that was the navigable waters that the Army Corps required this elevation throughout. And then when we were dealing with the rock on the far side, we came out of the rock, got up a little bit higher, and the steering contractor and Mike and our entire crew really had to put a lot of focus into making sure we covered that depth, and we didn't have a lot of room, but we were able to get through there successfully. So here's the January flood, which you can't see from here, but I thought was really cool. As you go to this project, when you're coming on the Swayze Parkway, there's a big rock that just sits there near the gate, and that was underwater. And that's if you go to that site, it gives you a great perspective as how deep that water got.
But didn't affect us really. I mean,
it was in and out quick. We were in a we were in a high low tide situation, but this happened. I think it was a Saturday, and it was a Saturday because I was down in Boston for something, and Mike was on site monitoring our equipment and whatnot. But
in this next picture here, I actually found on the this is the town website, and they put a warning out, although it looks like the event had occurred. Please exercise caution when accessing parking in the Swazi Stewart parking lots, Water Street. And they talk about the high tides, and there's almost that same picture that had in the previous slide. The previous picture was from Michael Wright. And there's our equipment down there that they took the picture of for this warning they put out.
Yep. Proved to be true. Okay. So here we are drilling. I think this is from the Swayze side. You're looking across to the mill, I believe. I think that's the case here.
This is early. We used ice on the river.
we used both of our 100s on this machine, on this project, and we were trailing rods as well. So it was, once we piloted it out, of course. And this picture here, back it up, Ken, a little bit. So this, gonna back up to that previous picture for a half a second, if you can. So just a quick note, this pipe here is the one we installed in January 2022. So we had about a 10-foot offset for the next pipe we were installing.
23.
23. We started in 22. Yeah, 23. Correct. Yeah. This is a picture of our Tulsa rig, our reclaimer. This machine got a lot of work on this project for sure. Brian Coda led the way with this machine, and we did a lot of cross training on this project to get a few of the other team members up to speed on this. So we feel good about our cross training efforts there. This gentleman is Mike Jones. He's with Right Turn Supply. He was our mud technician that was required. He came out of Houston, Texas area, and obviously spent a lot of time up here. We were required to report our mud properties on an hourly basis every day to the engineer on this project, and that was part of the effort to try to show that we were mitigating and doing everything we could do to prevent fluid release within the river.
But really, we were always doing everything we should have been doing the whole time.
We were,
without even having an inspector like that.
Yeah, they wanted a third party person, and for us it was an add-on. But our guys are well trained in this discipline. So there's Brian Coda on the reclaimer. This is on the Swayze side.
Yep.
The drill here
down there on the drill.
Yeah. Probably. This is from the Swayze side as well as our pumping system. I believe that's the Swayze side. It's hard to tell in that picture.
Mill side.
Mill side. All right. Thank you, Tom. This is from the mill side looking to the Swayze side where we have the reclaimer set up. This is our small job trailer we used for our Gyrotech, for our wireline technology. He sat there and worked this system all day long.
So they help us steer and keep track of where we're at and do as-built.
Steer, downhole pressures. The data we get out of the gyroscope is more than we needed, but we were able to provide as-builts all along the way on a daily basis as we needed to, proving our elevations out. So there's a lot of technology in that system for sure. So downhole pressures was a big one for us on that due to the fluid. And this is from the mill side. When we had the tool failure, we attempted to drive casing over our drill steel. Pat Wells spent a ton of time down there. Thank you, Pat and Mike and everybody who participated on this project, actually. But we were able to successfully drive the casing for about 100 feet and didn't quite get to the rock. We had to work through some bend radius stuff there. But ultimately, prior to getting the rock, we had some granular soils, and I think it really just bound us up, and we were not able to successfully retrieve. But the effort was solid, and I think it was the right step to do for sure. So a lot went into that. Close-up view of that same process.
Mike looks like he's spitting on the pipe or something.
Sure, he probably had a few choice words for it. Another view from the mill side. And the mill side is a residential area. The mill side had homeowners at every monthly meeting. They were there, and they were very user friendly for us in a very difficult situation. But this shows where we were trying to retrieve to this black square here is where our breakoff occurred, and we drove from the left side.
Kind of the limit of rock that we ended up drilling, right?
Yeah, it also shows that too. Exactly. That piece here between the black and the blue, if you will, that ended up being ultimately where we drilled through the rock with the pilot, the 12-inch and the 18-inch.
Yeah.
It's also the profile that we tried to retrieve.
There's what you like to.
There's what we like to see. So this piece right here, that's the final piece you see there is the 12-inch pipe itself. Mike and his team fabricated this protective sleeve to go over our swivel because we had I mentioned a junk rock section on the west side of the project coming out of the rock. So that prevented rocks from getting unstable stuff getting into that swivel and causing further problems. So we've done that on a few projects and successfully, and it certainly was needed here for sure.
Yep. Let me back up a little bit. I guess it looks like there's another issue of my photos. In this case, I had in here of the pipe as we were pulling it back in, unless it's after this one. Oh, there it is. It should have been before that, but
yeah. So this is the mill side, as I mentioned, and part of the effort here, a big part of the effort here was we were concerned about the borehole stability from the Swayze side where we really had the soft muds. So we wanted to ream that, a final ream through the rock, grab the pipe and go. So the timing of this was critical, and the mill side really, we didn't have the room to put it all together, so we had to do it in sections, and it was a tightly coordinated thing. Veritech, one of our suppliers, provided a technician to come in and help us fuse to get that all to happen. But it was critical to the thinking of the success of the project for sure.
This shows you how challenging it can be to manage the pipe going through, because it's a long 900-foot plus pipe there.
Yeah,
exactly. All right. Well, thank you, Tom. Good job for everybody. Let's see. Good job to have done too.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And on that, Ken, we pulled that pipe in a couple Fridays, 2 or 3 Fridays ago, and by the end of that day, I received calls from the Public Works Director, the city engineer, our client, our vendors, with great thanks for ECI for sticking it out on a really tough project.
Yep.
And thanks to all the guys who put anything into this, because it was a bear for sure.
Yeah. So this project archive photo is the Route 15 sewer force main crossing. This is at the West Street Extension intersection, and that's back in 2001. And so this is over by that little dentist office that's tucked in the woods there, drilling over to where that little jug handle is in Essex. So that was quite a few years ago already.
Yeah, prior to my time.
All right. Thank you. Have a safe day out there. I'll turn it back over to safety.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Tom. If you're watching a group setting, please send that over so you can capture attendance. It's going to be a pretty nice day. It's a great day to work safe. Let's have a good one today.
Take care.